Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for a Raw reaction show. The first of what is going to be 2 uploads today. You're going to get a preview show a little bit later on for the Southampton game. But I wanted to relieve some stress, and the best way to relieve some stress is sometimes to just try and get your words out, and doing that. I could have done it live, which I'm doing. I could have done it pre-recorded and edited it and thought maybe this guy will look a little bit better if he's less disheveled. But if it's live, then I mean everything I say, and I can't go back on any of it. So this is going to be me having a massive conversation with you guys about the issues with the news which broke yesterday. Now, it wasn't all bad news. I personally feel like the Pablo Mari deal is all right. I actually think that it's an okay deal in the current situation. Bernd Leno, fantastic news. The guy's going to be back sooner than expected. But I'm sorry, but RAUL SANHELLI is not doing his job. He's just not doing his job properly. It's as simple as that. And what he is doing is that he's dragging Arsenal Football Club into a place where I never thought I'd see it. He's taken Arsene Wenger's legs. Now, whatever you think about Arsene Wenger, what Arsene Wenger did do is that he built the club on developing young players, on bringing in questionable players at times, 100%, but developing players here and playing a attractive style of football. And that was not done by getting into bed with lots of different massive dictatorship-esque football agents around the world, and it wasn't done by doing your friends favours by bringing certain players in. It wasn't done that way. Now, I personally feel that Arsene Wenger should have left a lot earlier than he did. However, if I'd have known the utter calamity that we're experiencing happen now, I would have kept him here for so long. If it meant that RAUL SANHELLI was no longer head of football. Because, and for people watching this show, is that I'm usually the most optimistic content creator that you will find, period. I am so optimistic on this show usually, categorically. But I'm done. Because I'm sick and tired of seeing these mistakes made over and over again. Now, without falling into the trap of rambling too much, let's get into everything that I'm talking about. So, David Luiz, right? David Luiz this season has been dreadful. There's no bones about it. He improved towards the end of it, and that's a massive, massive props to Arteta, more than anyone, for actually getting something out of the player. But David Luiz has not been a good signing for Arsenal. He's had 3 red cards. He's made significant mistakes which have led to goals, giving away penalties in big games, costing us completely. Yeah, he comes out and owns up to it. Great. Good for him. He recognises that he's made mistakes, but he's made too many. So therefore, to renew his contract, instead of using your brain and maybe going out there and doing a bit of research and a bit of effort and getting the transfers going and the scouting going, because what I'm going to show to you is how easy it is to find players that are available. What I'm going to show to you is how easy it is from someone like me, a mid-20s bloke whose day job is a teacher and running a podcast on the side, how easy it is to identify players that Arsenal could sign for the same fee, being nothing. So I had a look, quick Google search, who's running out of contract at the end of this season? And I found a young man in France that many of you will probably know called Malang Sarr. From Nice. Malang Sarr, 21-year-old centre-back, is out of contract at the end of this season, currently being linked with quite a few clubs in Germany. And I wanted to show you, and some people might say, well, Malang Sarr's not very good enough for Arsenal. And that's fair enough. But let me just tell you how he stacks up against David Luiz. This is 32-year-old David Luiz, countless trophies, countless experience, against 21-year-old Malang Sarr. Passing accuracy, David Luiz 88%, Malang Sarr 91.5%. Long passing accuracy, because if you're going to talk to me about a player that maybe Malang Sarr isn't what Arteta wants from a centre-back, well, we know that Arteta likes a centre-back that can pass well, that can spray the ball out wide, that can get the ball moving. David Luiz's long passing accuracy, 51.1%. Malang Sarr's long passing accuracy, 61.8%. And I can tell you that he was only making 1.5 less long passes per game than David Luiz. These stats are taken from Y-Scout, by the way, so they're as reliable as anything. And then the amount of losses that are being made. David Luiz loses the ball 7 times in each game. Malang Sarr, 5.78 times per game. Okay? this is how easy it is. And not only that, but sometimes you'll be like, right, well, Tom, you can't just go off stats because it's silly. You can't just go off stats of a player. So what do clubs do when they want to get, well, they either go to, sometimes they even go to journalists, they go to experts, or they go get their scouts to go watch these players. So what did I do? Well, I hit up the only person that I could think of in terms of French football. He's come on the show plenty of times, and it's fair to say he knows his stuff. So Jeremy Smith, who is obviously French Football Weekly regular, get French football news, everything that you could do with French football. Jeremy knows his stuff. First thing he said, I rate Sarr highly. That's the first thing that Jeremy said about Malang Sarr when I brought this up. He says he feels sorry for him that he hasn't been totally given the chance to push on at centre-back, and actually he's played a lot at left-back this season. So not only can Sarr play in centre-back and do a better job than David Luiz, he can play multiple positions and cover multiple areas on the pitch. No confirmation on where he's going, but he is 100% leaving Nice. This kid is available on a free for less money on wages terms than David Luiz. Okay? I said to him, so was there no reason why Arsenal couldn't have gone for him? He said, short answer to your question, though, God knows why Arsenal aren't in there. So that's what the expert's saying. And that's just me. Again, this is just me, mid-20s, teacher, podcast on the side, has gone out there and identified a player that was going to be free, has gone and spoken to someone that he knows as a friend from doing this show. But Arsenal have contacts everywhere. They've signed Edu to come in on millions of pounds per year to try and sort out and find some players. They've got loads of actually, they don't have loads of scouts anymore. They sacked them all. But they should be able to find someone that is available. But no, because RAUL's in bed with another agent and it's Kia Jarabchin's player, we've got to sign David Luiz. Okay? Next one. Let's move on to number 2, which was obviously Cedric. Cedric has also signed a 4-year deal at Arsenal after having not played a single minute of football. Now, I can't make too much of a judgment about Cedric. I've not seen him play too much, and it'd be unfair of me to do so. So what I have done is I was like, oh, okay. Again, mid-20s, teacher, podcast on the side, has gone out and had a look at what's available. So there wasn't specifically any decent right-backs that were running out of contract. So I was like, what's the next best thing that you can get a decent deal for? Okay, let's look at some of the players that have only got a 1 year left on their deal and they're going to be available for less money. And I stumbled across this guy, Timothy Castagna at Atalanta, Belgian right-back. And it's fair to say that his stats are rather impressive. Got a year left on his deal, 24 years old. So again, this is whole idea about resale value. Defensive duels, Cedric does come out on top on this one. It'd be unfair of me not to highlight it. 66.5% to 61.2%. Loose ball duels, 40.9% for Cedric, 48.6% for Castagna. Losses, Cedric loses the ball 12.44 times per game, Castagna 8.33 times per game. Passing accuracy, Cedric 71%, Castagna 85%. Long passing accuracy, Arteta loves a long passer. Cedric 42.6%, Castagna 59.5%. Passes into the final third, Cedric 52.4%, Castagna 72.6%. And finally, passes into the box. Cedric, 43.7%, Castagna, 55.2%. Across the board, this guy is better. He's younger. He's got 1 year left on his deal. And what else do you do when you go for a player? Well, I've already told you. You go out there and you speak to someone that knows their stuff about the player. So I've gone to Football Italia's Richard Hall. You can find him on Twitter, at RichHall80. And I said, tell me, mate, what do you know about Castagna? I rang him up. I said, can you write some stuff down for me? But the first thing he said when I mentioned him, he just went, brilliant player. Okay? So I've managed to identify, in quote marks, a brilliant player. And this is what he said. Atalanta defender Timothy Castagna has revealed that if he were to be given the choice, he would opt for his next club to be in the Premier League. So not only is this guy going to have a year left on his deal, he wants to move to England. He wants to move to England. I've identified a player not only... I know it's just coming across the most big-headed thing ever, but I'm really trying to keep my cool while doing this. Not only have we identified a player that's going to be available in a year and therefore much cheaper, but it's someone that wants to actively move to the Premier League. The difficult here is that several clubs are interested in the guy. Fair enough. He'd be available for around 20 to 25 million euros, which I reckon if you're going to look at that, you could get down to a lot less, depending on depending on the competition, how heavy it is. But if you go in there early enough and you get a deal done, and we've supposedly got this amazing contract negotiator in Husfarmy, surely with the experience on our board, we can get something done. Surely. And this is where I struggle. This is where I really get irritated, because I can sit here in my study of my house and find players that are not only going to be either free or have got a year left on their deal, but would do a darn sight better than the players that Arsenal are looking at. And not only that, would have resale value. These aren't guys that are equally as experienced, but they're doing better at nearly 9 years younger in the case of Sarr and David Luiz, or 4 years younger in the case of Castagna. And instead of going out there and signing players that are financially viable, because we know that Arsenal, if you watched the Tactical Breakdown podcast the other day, where we talked to Giant Goonery, got the whole breakdown on the finance side of things, that we know that we're in financial trouble. But the fact that we've gone and re-signed David Luiz on a year deal was probably costing a hell of a lot of wages, when someone like Malang Sarr was available, makes no sense. And Arsenal keep on doing this. And I need to set the point straight on Thomas Partey as well, because don't get me wrong, Thomas Partey is a fantastic footballer. He's brilliant. And I think he would do great in this side. But Arsenal cannot afford to spend 50 million euros on someone that will arguably sign a 4-year deal, which would run out when he's past 30, and then his resale value is exceptionally low. We can't afford to do that. Arsenal need to change their ways. Arsenal need to start looking at players that are younger, that they can bring in on a consistent basis, looking at the models like RB Leipzig that only sign players that are 24, 23 or younger, and then sell them on for big value. Now, I know that a lot of people may struggle with the idea of Arsenal being a selling club. Now, I don't like the idea of it either. However, you need to be real, and you need to understand that Arsenal currently sit nearly in the bottom half of the table this Premier League season, because we're spending money, we're spending millions. We've bought Aubameyang for 60 million quid, Lacazette for 55, Pepe for 72, but we're not improving because we're not spending our money properly. And it's leaving us in a position which is a horrible position to be in. And it's so frustrating that I can sit here and I can see players that would be a good fit, see players that are available and realistic and that are doable, and that our club are not doing what they need to do. These men in this picture have got so many answers to face, so many questions that need answering. Starting from right to left, RAUL SANHELLI, who this video is mainly about, has come into Arsenal Football Club and ingrained a culture of using super agents and his connections to connect Arsenal with players that are well known, yes, but players that aren't doing the job, players that are not doing an effective employment for Arsenal Football Club. Edu has come in, and there are whispers currently going around that I've heard and seen on social media and from other people, that there are questions about his impact so far. Now, whether that impact's been stunted by RAUL SANHELLI and maybe he hasn't been able to do what he necessarily wanted to, or he's not had the opportunity yet. And by the way, Martinelli wasn't necessarily, from what I know, too much to do with Edu. So don't start thinking that Martinelli was massively to do with Edu, because it was apparently linked previously before that. Kajigal was one of the bigger people in that. And then you've got Josh Kroenke, the man that told us to be excited, the man that said that we should be absolutely ecstatic with what's coming in the future. And that was in reference to us spending £72 million, not on a defender, not on a midfielder, but yes, on an exciting winger. And Pepe, I hope and pray, does well, because he's got all the talent in the world. But we're a club in freefall that are defensively flawed and have shown that year upon year, and we don't do anything about it. And these guys are responsible for that. And then you've got Sven Mislintat, right? Sven Mislintat, who, I'm not going to make any bones about it, is notorious for being hard to get on with. It was known at Dortmund. He fell out with Tuchel. He supposedly now has fallen out of RAUL SANHELLI. But the thing is that we had in Sven Mislintat arguably the best recruiter of talent in Europe. And when he came in, I was delighted. I was thinking, amazing, right? Arsene Wenger, when he first came in, signed some exciting young talent, signed players that people never would have heard of before, and that absolutely smashed it. And in the sort of the end to his reign, he lost that ability, and Arsenal no longer were able to sort of sign these young, exciting players that would take the team and the league by storm. And even now, with players like Guendouzi, like I can't see a world-class player in him yet, but you could in those players that were signed at the start of Arsene Wenger's tenure. And I thought, when Sven Mislintat came in, that we would be signing into the future, identifying young talent and bringing them in and developing them and maybe selling them on for a massive fee and keeping us financially viable. Not going out and signing David Luiz, not going out and getting Willian at the end of his contract, not going out and getting Joe Hart because we're in a goalkeeping scenario. That thing, and now it's great because it turns out Leno's not going to be injured for too long. But imagine for a second that Bernd Leno gets injured long term, and instead of Arsenal going, right, okay, we've lost our goalkeeper, not great. What should we do? Oh my God, we've got to sign someone quick. Let's sign Joe Hart. No, put your brain on. What is so wrong with going out there into Europe, looking at some younger goalkeepers in their mid-20s, that are available possibly because they've got 1 year left on their deal or because they're playing in a lesser league and you could take advantage of that and get a better deal, like even Jonas Omlin from Basel might have been able to get in for a decent fee. And maybe he comes in and maybe he supersedes Leno. Maybe this goalkeeper that comes in gets better than Leno. Great, sell Leno, make 30, 40 million quid. And then you've got a goalkeeper at the club already that superseded Leno. Or if it doesn't work out, you keep Leno and then you sell on the second goalkeeper. Or you just keep him as backup. But he hasn't cost you much in the first place. Don't panic and start looking at the likes of Joe Hart and Claudio Bravo because you're mates with their agent. Why? It makes no logical sense. These people are earning millions, millions and millions and millions. And I can sit here and I can talk about players that I've spent half an hour finding out how many years left on their deal, talking to some experts about what they think of them. Turns out they're pretty darn good. And do Arsenal do that? No. And it's fair to say that if you're expecting Arsenal to turn things around, if things don't change, then you're going to be waiting a very, very long time. Thanks for listening. I'll speak to you in a bit. Sorry there's not been much chat engagement. I'm going to have a chat to you guys in the chat box a little bit later on in our preview show of the Southampton game, where I'm sure some of this stuff will come up again. If you've enjoyed my rant and some of the stuff we've talked about, please drop a like on the video. Please share it around. I'd really appreciate it. I mean, if there was some way in which RAUL SANHELLI could see this, amazing. I doubt it very much. I doubt if he did, he'd pay attention to it. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.